especially being in entrepreneurship, when you're first starting out, you don't have a stable income, right? It's up and down. It's like a roller coaster. You're so lonely because your friends and family don't understand what you're doing, and you feel like you're the only one forging this path, not realizing there's so many other entrepreneurs out there who feel the same way.
Today, my guest is Sheena Yap Chan. She is a best-selling author. She's passionate about empowering Asian American women. But tell me more about what you do.
Yeah, so I am a keynote speaker, Wall Street Journal bestselling author on confidence and visibility, and for me, that's really important. I realized if I wasn't visible, I wouldn't be here today. If I didn't go out and show up and speak up and write books and be in the media, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. Especially growing up in Toronto, Canada. I moved from the Philippines to Toronto in 1989, and all my work really started from there because I never saw anybody in the media that looked like myself. So I was always ashamed of my own culture, wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes, wanted to change my name to sound more Western. And it wasn't until my 20s where I really embraced my Asian culture. And so that's why I decided to start my podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, write books, speak on stages, because it's so important, right? Sometimes it just takes one woman out there to show up and speak up for everybody else, and it becomes a domino effect. But then I also read a story on X about a woman in Afghanistan who has a job, right? And currently, under the Taliban rule, women aren't allowed to have jobs, women aren't allowed to have an education. And so her going to a job is actually a life or death situation, right? I know that sounds insane, but this is the reality some women are facing right now. I know sometimes being in North America, we don't see things all over the world, but knowing that she's risking her life to work a job to provide for her family makes me realize I need to step up as well, even if it's scary.
Yeah, one voice does make a difference.
It really does. And I think sometimes as women, we feel like our story doesn't matter, that there's someone out there who's already doing it, but really there's not enough. Especially I live in Toronto, which is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, right? When I see there's not that much diversity shown represented in media, that I get frustrated, right? And so sometimes I have to realize like it's not going to change if you don't go up there, right? If I keep complaining and not doing anything about it, I become the hypocrite.
Yeah, it takes courage to be the only person out there.
For sure.
Yeah. My background is in a nonprofit. Sometimes I'll be the only Asian face in the room thinking, I know there are more people out there. Where are they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I totally get that. Sometimes I'm the only one, right? And you know, Asian culture, we're not taught to show our faces,
Mm,
especially Asian women. We're taught to do as you're told, stay in the background, never make any noise, never share anything that you're going through. Just work hard, put your head down, and never make any trouble. And unfortunately, that doesn't work in the real world, especially in a corporate setting. Working hard doesn't get you anywhere. Yes, you have to work hard, but you have to work smart at the same time, right?
exactly.
No one is gonna no one is gonna notice your hard work. Sometimes you're only seen as a hard worker versus being seen as leadership material. So we
Yeah.
have to learn to work smart and hard at the same time so that we can get the promotions, the leadership positions. And so one thing we're not taught in Asian culture is learning to network, right? Learning to just have conversations with your boss or your coworkers, get to know one another, because those relationships do matter, right? Getting to know someone, they get to know who you are, what your personality is, what your style is, and it helps you create conversations, right? And create solutions for your work. I
Yeah.
know sometimes as women, we're so afraid just to even put our hand up because we're afraid that the ideas that we have in our head might be a bad idea. And there's no such thing as a bad idea,
My God, I
right?
could so relate.
Yeah. I've spoken to so many women who've told me they wanted to raise their hand up, they
Mm,
wanted to share their idea, but they were too afraid. And the person beside them said the same exact thing and got praised for it. So, to anyone listening to this, just put your hand up. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. Just share it, right? Because you never know what kind of outcome will come your way,
Mhm.
right? I'm a big believer of asking questions, sharing ideas, putting yourself out there. And and it's hard. I get it. I still second guess, oh, is what I'm putting out, does it make sense? Will people like it? Will they think I'm nuts? But I always go back to why I do the things that I do, having a big purpose. It's not just about me, it's about all the other, women out there who feel like they're too afraid to share their story.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yay, Sheena. I'm curious though, what got you here? I know you say you moved to Toronto from Philippines, and how old were you?
I was 7.
7, as a young child. How was that experience? Like, I'm in America, so maybe a
Yeah.
little different.
I mean, yeah, Toronto is very multicultural, but at the same time, that wasn't represented in media. So, like I mentioned before, I never saw anybody in the media that looked like me. The first TV show that I watched that was like an all Asian cast was American Girl with Margaret Cho.
Mm.
And the
Oh
first
yeah.
movie that I saw with an all female Asian cast was The Joy Luck Club. And I
Mm.
remember watching that and I was like, oh my God, like there's a movie out there that represents me. And that was a
Yeah.
big deal back then because
Yeah.
Joy Luck Club came out and then like 25 years later was like Crazy Rich Asians.
Mm.
So in between, there wasn't really a lot of movies or
Right.
TV shows that highlighted Asian culture
Mhm.
in North America. So for me, it was a big deal. And now we're starting to see more of it, which I love. It's still a slow process, but it's still a lot better than it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So I always felt ashamed of my own culture. I didn't want to be Asian. I hated being Asian growing up because I wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes because
Yeah.
that's all I ever saw.
All of
Um,
us, so many of us,
yeah, so many of us,
especially girls.
yeah, so many of us go through that, especially being Asian. We don't think we're pretty enough because we don't have the blonde hair and blue eyes. We have dark brown hair, small eyes, flat nose. And so we feel like that we think that that's not beautiful when really
Right.
it is. It's beautiful, right? Everyone is
Yes.
beautiful in their own skin.
Mhm.
So also trying to assimilate to Western culture while tying into your Asian roots, right? That was also a battle, right?
Mhm.
I
For
remember going
sure.
back to the Philippines, visiting my relatives, and being in North America, we have the freedom to share our opinions. Not that I'm saying other countries don't have that freedom, but we can share an opinion and have a conversation, right? We're not going to fight about it. But I remember going back home and, I just shared my opinion to like my uncles and they were like, "How dare you speak out of line? How could you talk back to us?" And
Yes.
like, what we see in America or in North America versus Asia are two totally different things. So also learning that was hard, and then also just being in a conservative Chinese family, there's only one way of doing things. You can't do this, you can't do that. And so trying to navigate that, trying to forge your own path while
Mm.
being tied to a conservative Chinese family was like a huge battle. But
Yeah.
I also understood that I needed to do what I needed to do in order to live life to the fullest, to have no regrets and not have these repressed feelings built up and then going through like this mental health challenge that
Mm.
most people don't work through the traumas, right? Especially in Asian culture, trauma is not something we talk about.
Right.
It's something we hide under the rug or hide in the closet. I mean, the main reason why I wrote my first book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, was because we need to fix our trauma. We need to heal from it. We need to be aware that trauma happens and also realize that it's not only our trauma, but our parents' trauma, grandparents. They say it goes down 4 generations deep. I think being Asian, it goes way deeper,
Mhm.
but this is an important topic that we need to talk about, we need to
Mhm.
address, we need to be made aware of, find solutions so we can move forward as our best self.
Right. What do you think is the most common trauma that Asian community families experience? I mean, of course, we understand everybody's different, every family's different, but there must be that common thread in our community that we face.
Yeah, I think the need to be perfect, sometimes we see all these picture perfect photos on Instagram, Facebook, thinking these, people have the perfect life and not realize behind closed doors there's so many things happening. I think we're so good at putting up a front. We have to be strong, we can't be weak, we can't cry, you can't ask for help, you have to do everything yourself. And then also the model minority myth doesn't help as well because It's taught that, Asians are successful, we don't need any help, when that's far from the truth. Yes, there's Asians out there who are successful, but there's also Asians out there who are suffering, who
Yeah.
aren't as successful, who need help. And so, I think this need to be perfect needs to be like abolished, needs to be gone because it doesn't help anybody. We're trying to attain for something that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We look at a photo of a beautiful model on the cover of a magazine and we think, oh my goodness, she's perfect. But people don't realize the amount of makeup they put on the hair, the amount of lighting, the heavy editing, editing their hips, editing their face.
Right.
We can't edit our face in real life,
Mm-hmm.
with just editing tools. So we
Right.
have to we have to learn to like differentiate the reality
Mm.
versus like what you see in the media. People crave relatability, people crave authenticity. People are drawn to people that they can relate to. And so this is why we need more people out there, especially being in entrepreneurship. Like, it's not easy, right? Yes, you get to be your own boss. Yes, you get to work your own hours, but you could be working 24 hours in a day. Um, when you're first starting out, you don't have a stable income, right? It's up and down. It's like a roller coaster. And then sometimes you feel like you're so lonely because your friends and family don't understand what you're doing. And you feel like you're the only one forging this path, not realizing there's so many other entrepreneurs out there who feel the same way. And I think it's important to talk about this because not a lot of people talk about this. Not a lot of people share the real transparency of entrepreneurship. It's great, don't get me wrong, but at the same time it can also bring you down. And so that's why working on your mindset is so important. Surrounding yourself with the right people is important. Listening to podcasts like this, reading books that can help you have the tools and resources to help you pick you back up when times are tough because life isn't linear. It's a roller coaster. It's up and down. It's upside down. It's sideways. It can be a hot mess, but it can also be beautiful at the same time.
I think it's important to have a community. It's interesting. I have friends who are Asian Americans still dealing with that separation of male and female and what is expected of them versus what is expected of the boys in the family. Navigating that, I don't know, what would you call it, the conflict?
Yeah.
Um, how do you navigate that?
It wasn't easy. It took a lot of unlearning and
Mm,
unlearning some of the things that our culture tells us to do that doesn't
sure.
really serve us. There's certain traditions that we do that we never question. It doesn't make sense sometimes, and then when you ask your elders, they're like, just do it because it's tradition. But sometimes we really have to question it. Will it hurt us or will it help us? In the my latest book, Bridging the Confidence Gap, I share different traditions from different cultures that really hurt women. Talking about periods is a taboo and it's like you're shunned from society when it's like part of a woman's anatomy, right? Like you bleed at least once a month. Like that's part of what being a woman is, right?
Mhm.
Why is it such a taboo? In Africa, genital mutilation is still very prevalent,
Yeah.
right? You look at Asia, there's still child marriages that still happen, and we have to question these things, right? So we have to learn, first of all, we have to unlearn these traditions that hurt us, and then we have to learn new things. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be messy. It's going to be ugly. But in order to move forward, we have to unpack the things that don't serve us, bring in new perspectives to help us move forward, and then find the tools and resources to help us keep moving forward as we go. Because you can't do everything on your own, and when you try to do everything on your own, you have blind spots. And they're blind spots for a reason because you can't see it, and that's why having a second and third pair of eyes is important. So, especially when it comes to the role of men and women, I think all cultures, men are praised more than women in most cultures. And we have to learn to change a narrative. And it's not going to be easy, right? Especially for women, there's so many labels that's been put on us, and we have to learn to push through just in spite of that. Sometimes progress looks like one step forward, five steps back. I think that's a clear indication of like the World Economic Forum mentioning when gender parity would be achieved. I mean, the pandemic lockdown set women back at least 4 or 5 generations,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean it's over, right? It means we have to continue the work. And imagine if each and every one of us did our part, what we could achieve. right? And there's been studies where if we have more women in leaderships, more women in corporate, more women in those seats, it helps everybody. It's a win-win situation for everybody, right? The country, our country will prosper, GDP goes up, we have more money for creating better infrastructure, creating, better lives for the people. So, if we continue to just show up, speak up, and empower others to do the same, um, it can be a domino effect for the real change that we want to see. So, yeah.
How do you change the narrative though? Well, for instance, in the family.
Yeah, I think it's important to take really small steps, right? I believe it's the small, actionable daily steps that yield the big results.
Mm,
Um, a lot of people think we need to go from 0 to 100 to change our confidence, and that doesn't really help us. In fact, it brings our confidence down a lot more. So
mm,
just taking one step at a time, right? Like if you wanted to start a business but you still have a job, you can do both, right? Slowly start it. And then when you have enough money to replace your full-time income, then you go out and venture out as a full entrepreneur. If you wanted to write a book, if if you think writing a whole book is daunting, start with 1 page a day. Whatever it is, just start small and build up on it as you go. I always tell people Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So you can't expect the same for yourself. And for some people, it takes up to 10,000 hours to practice their craft. So, and especially in Asian culture, we love the compare game, right? We
mm.
love to compare a chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. And so we have to realize that they've been through it. They've been through the heartache, the disappointments, the struggles to get to where they are today. And so you can't compare yourself to that person, right? You're just starting. It's okay. You're going to start messy. You're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a roller coaster, but it'll all be worth it in the end.
I love it. Don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20.
Yeah.
I think the biggest conflict that Asian American families experience is the comparison game,
Oh,
and
yeah.
also saying it's okay. That is so hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah. I think also just learning to say no to things that don't serve us,
Mm,
especially for Asian women. It's important to set boundaries. I know as women, we're natural born caretakers, so we always want to say yes to appease the other people, but it's people pleasing is not good, right?
no.
We always think we need to people please to feel worthy, to feel a person of value, but it's also really important to set those boundaries because if we don't set those boundaries, we're going to get into situations that we don't want to be in, right? And yes, not everybody's going to like it. I think that's another thing, right? We feel like everybody needs to like us. Not everyone's going to like us.
No matter
And
what, yeah.
no matter what, you can't please everybody. And if you do, it's exhausting. And so we just need to show up as ourselves and the right people will come to us.
Yeah. I did an episode on the boundaries, setting boundaries. Check it out. I love the word unlearn because we have to unlearn
Oh,
so
yeah.
many things, right? What is one thing that you had to unlearn, with your upbringing? You're ethnically Chinese
Yeah.
Canadian? Yeah.
Uh,
I'm Korean American.
yeah.
So, what was one thing that you had to unlearn?
I think the need to be perfect, right? We've been taught to be the perfect daughter, wife, sister, whatever, and it's really exhausting. That and also how I view failure, right? In school, failure is seen as something bad. In the Philippines, I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo, so that really affected me
You
because
failed kindergarten?
I know, I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Yes, this is
Okay.
real life. They gave me the same photo to color again, and I just couldn't color within the lines. I colored
Uh,
outside the lines. And so because of that, I failed kindergarten. I moved to another school, redo kindergarten all over again. And I didn't realize that that moment also led me to not valuing myself because I felt like everything I touched, I felt like an instant failure.
oh.
And so when I did the work that I had to do in
Hmm.
order to move forward, I realized I did not fail. I was just meant to color outside the lines. I was always
Okay.
meant to do something unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had that in the beginning,
Yeah.
it just imagine like I just imagine how much further I could have been. But that's okay.
Hmm.
We're all in this journey for a reason. Things
Yeah.
happen for a reason. That's another thing. I realized that whatever situation with it we're in, it's either a blessing or a lesson, right? I
Hmm.
had to reframe it the way I think, right? I had to think this had to happen because I'm going to learn something, something will come out of it. And it just makes it easier to deal with, right? To
Yeah.
say, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Healthier perspective
there's
as
gonna be a
well.
lesson out of this. Something else will happen. And so yeah, I had to do a lot of unlearning, of course. A lot of unlearning, even like making a decision for myself, overcoming fear, the people pleasing, the self-doubt. Like, being an Asian woman, we go through like there's so many things that we're like dealing with that we don't talk about that it's so necessary to talk about. And I know it's not only Asian women who deal with it, women from other cultures deal with it as well. Just because we come from different cultures, we have different skin tones, we still go through similar things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So many of that, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, speaking up is one big one for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not taught to speak up, right? Like I mentioned, we're taught to stay in the background, never make any noise. And so if we speak up, people think we're fighting somebody or, it's
Being
not.
disrespectful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when really no, we're just for once speaking up, sharing our views, sharing our stories. And it's so important to speak up, especially
Yeah.
in this day and age. Now we have the technology to do it, right? Like we have the internet where we can share our stories worldwide. We have AI now that can help us even translate what we speak about to other countries and empower those people. Scary for some people to embrace AI, but I believe it's important to embrace it, especially for women, because now there's a huge gap between men and women utilizing AI, and if we don't utilize it, we're gonna fall behind again.
My daughter, she is in her early 30s, and she actually said something to me a few years ago. Actually, when she first started after college working in finance, I was so surprised by her statement, which was, I am afraid to speak up when my supervisor is a man, older, and has a loud voice. I don't know, like, if I'm supposed to speak or not speak. I was completely taken back because she's very proactive, outspoken, all American girl. Is this something common?
Yeah, it's more common than you realize. We're afraid to speak up, especially if you're the only woman in the room. It can be daunting. I even me sometimes when I go to events and I'm like the only woman, like, and it's all these men, it's like, oh my goodness, like, this is a little bit daunting, but and a little bit uncomfortable, but I push myself to be in those spaces so we can be seen, so we can
Mm.
create that visibility, so we can change the narrative. And the fact that you said you have a daughter in your early 30s is just like I'm thinking, did you have her when she was like when you were like young? Because you look very
Kill. I have a granddaughter too.
Oh
She's
my
almost
gosh.
one.
You're like the youngest looking grandma. Um
Oh, thank you.
so yeah, a lot of women deal with this and not just Asian women. Mostly women of color, of course, feeling like they can't speak up because
Hmm.
they're afraid. It's daunting. It's a new environment. They're not used to it.
Wow.
So
Mm.
sometimes when it's uncomfortable, that's a time where we need to stretch. It's taking
Mm.
us to a next level. So,
Yeah.
you know, utilizing it for something good versus something bad.
Mm.
Even imposter syndrome, right? We have all these thoughts in our heads. Am I good enough? There's someone better out there. Why would they choose me? But you take that and you realize that this is part of growth. You're going to go through these thoughts, and it's important to take it to the next level.
Mm. Yeah. I think the biggest surprising factor for me was yes, I experienced it. But my daughter, who is completely American, wow. And talk about the imposter syndrome. My goodness, I have been experiencing that every single day as I'm doing this podcast.
Hey, when I got approached to write a book for Wiley, I had major imposter syndrome. they asked me if I wanted to write a book about leadership, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm the poster child for leadership. Like, I don't even know what leadership looks like.
Mm,
I don't know if I'm that person. Like, I almost said no to not writing that book because I just didn't think I was that person.
mm,
And I'm really glad that I had the right support system to encourage me to say, no, you need to write that book. And I was like, okay, I'll write it. I'll figure it out. I had less than 3 months to write the first book.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. And then when that came out, it hit the Wall Street Journal bestselling list, and then they asked me if I wanted to write the second book, which I have now, Bridging the
Mm,
Confidence Gap. And so imagine if I said no, what
mm,
would have happened, right? And if I said no too, I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world because here I am talking about representation, the need to be in spaces, the need to show up, and then I'm not showing up. I mean, what's the point in me preaching it if I'm not
mm.
doing it? And the action is a lot harder than I can talk about confidence all day, but the action is a lot harder, like 10 times harder. But I have to remind myself why I do what I do because I want to show others what is possible. I want to show others that we can break barriers, we can make history, we can change the course as we keep showing up.
Yeah,
Being fearless is not about not having fears. Being fearless is doing it in spite of it,
that's
right?
right.
I remember hearing that Bono still gets scared every time he performs on stage, but he utilizes that fear to give the best performance ever. Every time I have to go on stage to speak, whether it's in person or virtual, I
Mhm.
get so much anxiety. Like the anxiety level goes like way up
Do
because
you?
I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I hope people like what I'm talking about. I hope it
Uh,
makes sense. I hope I don't make any mistakes. But it's also a sign that I just want to give the best
mhm,
talk ever to help people realize that they can do it. They have this shift in their head. They start seeing things from a different perspective.
mm,
So, um, yeah, we all get scared.
yeah.
Everybody, myself included. There's still things that I'm still working through.
Let's talk a little bit about your new book.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you share?
Yeah, so bridging the confidence gap is really about the the disconnect between how capable you are versus how capable you believe you are. So that
Hmm.
belief, right?
Huh.
Especially as women, we don't believe we're capable.
Mm,
We think there's someone better out there. You're not good at like the imposter syndrome comes in. If a man and a woman were to apply for the same promotion, the man would be about 30 to 50% ready and he's just going to go for it, while the woman is 110% ready, but still something holds her back, and it's how she sees herself. And so it's really important to bridge that so that we can go out there, take action, and create the changes that we want to see. And once a woman is empowered to do that, like she becomes unstoppable. So yes, we talk on topics such as imposter syndrome, how we overcome it, the biases women go through, right? All those biases, you know, um, contribute to how we perceive ourselves, how we see ourselves. The importance of self-promotion, because, for women, it's been seen as tacky and not ladylike.
mm,
But I believe self-promotion is empowering, and that's how we build leadership skills. And then just the benefits of having more women in leadership. Whether it's entrepreneurship, corporate, government, we need more of those women out there to
mm.
showcase that. Even more women billionaires out there, right? It's slowly going up there, but if you compare it to men, we're still like a small fraction.
Right.
So of course, we still have a lot of work to do. It really starts with that belief in ourselves. And girls start having self-confidence issues as young as 6 years old. 6 years old, right? While men, they've been practicing confidence all their life. Like even in dating, right? Uh, if a guy went to a club, his main goal is to get one number from a girl, just one number. And if he has to go through 100 no's to get the one number, he's willing to do it. If we did that, oh my gosh, we'd be a hot mess, right? The first rejection, we'd be crying, eating ice cream, and then thinking we're the worst person in the world. And so it's important to embrace rejection, to embrace failure, to embrace all these things.
Mm.
And then this book is kind of like a guide to help you kind of see things from a different perspective, what happens when we have that disconnect, and how we can move forward.
Where do you start?
I mean, you just start where you start, right?
Hmm.
And we're all different. We're all going to start our journey differently, some early, some late.
Mhm.
But I think it's also important to encourage girls to be confident. I wish they taught that in school. Not that math and science is important, but confidence and self-love, that's just as important and is so needed in the real world. We want to equip the younger generation with the actual skills to be successful. It's important to have the skills to succeed: resilience, confidence, learning to push through our fears, self love, gratitude, um, persistence, right? Those are much needed skills in the real world. Um, and even now, there's been a report by like the World Economic Forum that soft skills is needed now more than ever in 2025 and beyond. With the rise of AI, there's going to be a lot of things that we can kind of utilize AI to do, right? The technical stuff. We don't need to do that. We don't need to figure out how to code, how to create an app. We have AI that gives us the power to do that. So now we have to focus on those skills: confidence, leadership, emotional intelligence, resilience. And I think it's important to start that at a very young age so that so that the younger generation can thrive, right? They need to see failure is not bad. Failure is part of the process. Rejection is part of the process. Um, Confidence comes with everything we do. And so practicing that at a young age.
We need human skills.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What is confidence? Number one, how do you define confidence? And what is the difference between confidence, self confidence, and self esteem?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always get that. I mean, self-confidence is really knowing that you're capable. It's just that knowing the inner knowing that you're capable to get it done. Even if you don't know how or what, even if you don't have a pathway to do that, you just know you're capable, right? I've seen
You could
people who
figure it
started
out.
with nothing and create an empire, right? Because they knew what they were capable of. When it comes to self-esteem, it's kind of like valuing yourself, right? How you see yourself. If you don't see yourself as someone worthy, you're not going to go out there and do it. And so that's why it's important. I know it sounds cheesy to believe in yourself, but that self-belief can go a long way. You're not going to take action if you don't think you're the person to do it.
What is one chapter that you recommend that everybody reads in your book?
Self-promotion. I think we need to change the way we see self promotion, especially for women. I've spoken to a lot of women who hate to promote themselves, who hate to put themselves out there. I get it. I don't like to promote myself either. Like,
Like,
I would rather,
especially for Asian women,
yeah,
right?
I'd rather hide and just watch Korean dramas all day on Netflix. But I understand this is not just about me, it's for every other woman out there. I mean, I've spoken to like eight-figure CEOs who back then didn't even tell people they were the CEO of their own company. Can you believe that? And so this is why for me self-promotion is so important, right? You want to be visible, you want to put yourself out there. Yeah, you got to promote yourself. You have a business, you have to promote yourself. It has to start with yourself. And there's different ways that I share that you can promote yourself and still feel good and really like put yourself out there. So that I think is the chapter that most people um should read because it's important. This is not it's not tacky. It's a leader. It teaches you how to be a leader. It teaches you how to be in the forefront, to advocate for yourself, to break barriers, change history. I mean, let's look at the Barbie movie, right? Summer of 2023, you couldn't go out anywhere without seeing the color pink. Um, they had so many collaborations, Xbox themed Barbie, a Barbie themed Xbox, Airbnbs, luggage, you name it. And because they had excessive like marketing, like really like you just saw them everywhere, that led to the first billion-dollar movie that was solely directed by a woman. And that is huge because for so long, Hollywood kept thinking that women aren't bankable. Yet here's a movie about a doll that made over $1 billion. So that's why for me, self-promotion is so important.
That's really interesting because I guess it's for every woman, but especially for Asian women, we, going back to how we were brought up, we are taught to not to speak up, be quiet, don't talk back. So for us, that's such a huge issue. I think for men too, because
Yeah.
we're taught to be humble, be humble,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
So it does take a lot of unlearning and relearning new things and seeing things from a different perspective.
Mm,
Especially in our community, we want to be seen, but we're afraid to put ourselves out there. Like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, right? You look
mm,
at like BTS, like look at how much visibility has helped them, right? One of
yeah.
the probably the biggest. I think it's safe to say they're the biggest band in the world when it comes to visibility and impact. Like they literally have fans from all over the world,
Yeah.
topping charts in countries you never thought would ever like. You never thought would ever happen, like Chile and like Kenya. And I'm like thinking, what is going on? They got like armies all over the world, and they don't. When they first started, they couldn't even speak English properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they weren't visible, no one would know who they are, right? Blackpink, same thing. Because they were so visible, they break records, sold out concerts, their videos rack up millions and millions of views. And this is why it's important to show up, to speak up, to be visible, to put ourselves out there, because it changes the way we're seen, it changes the way that, it takes away the negative stereotypes that we still go through today.
Give me one tip. If I was in the office as an Asian American woman, how can I promote myself without being tacky?
I mean,
Or maybe I need to be. I don't know.
I think it's important to do your research, right?
Mm,
You know, also give people a reason why you are that person, right? Maybe you found something in your company that maybe help cut costs or increase revenue, or ask your coworkers to kind of vouch for you, right? I remember when I had my first, when I had a, my, not my first, when I had a salary review, my boss was like, okay, your salary is gonna go from 50 to 54,000. And I was like asking my boss, can you actually add one more thousand to that? And the reason I told him was because in Chinese culture, anything that ends in a number four is a bad omen.
mm,
So he laughed at it. He thought it sounded ridiculous. But at the same time, he also gave me the raise, right? Because for me, that was a valid reason.
mm,
Um, and so sometimes it's important to do your research.
mm-hmm.
So, if you really want that promotion or to be seen, give them a reason to, right? Do your research, like I mentioned. Figure out how you can make the company better or things like that. So, yeah, you have to be an advocate for yourself. And yeah, sometimes you gotta be shameless. So yeah.
Thick face. That's what Koreans say. You gotta have
Yeah.
a thick face. Speaking about reviews, I was asking for a promotion and doing my reviews, and my boss at the time told me something very, very valuable. She said, keep log of all the accomplishments and the inputs that I put into my job and like make a case for myself instead of just saying, oh, I think I deserve the promotion. I have to bring the reason why. And that really stuck with me throughout all these years because we work very hard, but we have to work smarter,
Yeah.
not harder,
Yes.
right? So that's
Oh,
one
yeah.
lesson that I learned. As a child growing up in Toronto, within a very traditional Chinese family, I think you and I could relate many, many things. What was that like?
I mean, yes, I guess we had a mix of both, right? I was also taught to, success was working a 9 to 5 job and retire when you're 60. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I was meant to do something more. So of course, when I decided to quit my job and forge my own path, my parents was not about it. They were like, why would you leave something successful? Why would
Mm,
you leave something stable? And that's what we've been taught to do, right? Have
sure.
stability, have something recurring. And and you know, it's sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad because it doesn't teach us what happens when things blow up, right? Like the pandemic was a clear indication that anything can happen. Like literally anything can happen. Like you could be going to work one day and then the next day the whole world closed down. And so we also need to prepare ourselves for things like that to happen, right? When things just happen in an instant, how do we pivot ourselves? How do we figure things out as we go? Embracing uncertainty is really important, right? Because uncertainty can be a really great thing. We've been taught that uncertainty is bad, but uncertainty can be great. It can open so many doors for us when we see it from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's right. That's so critical to embrace the uncertainty. That is such a huge, fearful statement, though. I think our parents' generation, they were all about the survival in the new country, and building up their immigrant life. So uncertainty, some out of the box, is so scary for them. So us unlearning is such a huge challenge, I believe.
For sure.
So, last question. What is one thing that you learned about yourself through recording this podcast?
I think for me, it's just learning that no matter what happens, even if we're going through something, we will be all right because we have the confidence to do it. We are capable. And there's days where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is the right path, or I don't know if this is something I can sustain. And then I have to like kind of like slap myself and realize you can do this, you'll be fine. You've been through worse. So
Hmm.
learning to reassure myself is something that I've never done before back in the day. And so I just have to tell myself, you've been through so much. You can do it. You can figure this out. And so,
Is that what you tell yourself when you are going through stuff?
oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, you can do
So,
this. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you tell yourself right before you go on the stage, when the right before the mic turns on?
Uh More just like it's now or never. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah, pretty much.
So excited that I got to meet you and talk to you.
Same here. It's such a blast being on the podcast.
Ah, thank you. I look forward to your next season.
Thank you.